let's get started, everybody. Thank you for your time. So we'll get started. Today we're going to cover post-COVID scams. We've seen a lot of cyber attacks happening as of late, with new ideas and new type of attacks happening, and we wanted to bring those to your attention and cover some of the old ones that are still being used. We'll also show you best practices on what to do and how to secure yourself and your network and your company and your employees. And most importantly, employee training and how you can provide that. At the end of the day, 95% of all issues happens because somebody clicked on something they weren't supposed to, or somebody got phished or got attacked. And I will explain all that when we get to it. And the reason for this webinar today is that let's move forward. This is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. October is, the whole month of October is Cybersecurity Awareness. There's so many hacks out there, so many things happening that the IT community dedicated a whole month to it. That's all we do is preach about cybersecurity during this month, and we want you to be aware of some of the hacks happening, especially now that COVID had came in and turned our world upside down. Cyber attacks have increased in numbers and severity since the onset of the COVID pandemic. We see it happening all the time. We see new ways people are getting hacked, and it's all about the money. People are trying to hack you to either get your money or get your data and hold you ransom to get your money. Data is money in the cyber world, but there's some certain things that we have to be aware of and certain things that we have to do. So in order to explain that, we put together this presentation, and the presentation is about going through some of the cyber attacks that we've heard of as of late. So we're going to cover some of that. So, you know, COVID-19 is creating the perfect storm for cyber criminals. People are at home now. They're worried. They are concerned. They work from home. They're scared. They are hungry for information when it comes to COVID and when it comes to anything that can give them a peace of mind. And most importantly, they're also bored. They're home. So lots of information coming your way through social media and emails. It's the perfect storm for cyber criminals. They know that you're anxious, and they know they can take advantage of that. And they're getting very smart about how to do it. So the coronavirus scams are out there. There's a lot of different scams. They're not only cybersecurity scams, but the ones that we're going to cover are all cybersecurity scams. So we'll start with a couple that we found and we investigated. First one is our great company, our great community college, Erie Community College. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. This only happened a couple of weeks ago. A ransomware cyber attack targeted ECC, causing their phones and website to crash. So this is local, and it just happened this year. The staff computers that did not disconnect from the network on Tuesday night, about 3 weeks ago, received a message stating that their computer had been hacked and directing them to a third-party website to restore their service. Now, the computer wasn't hacked, and the third-party website was the hack. So some people have clicked on it and gone to that website. The school's IT team shut down major portions of the college's network on Wednesday morning to mitigate the damage. School officials say that they believe the issue is limited to individual Windows-based staff computers that were connected to the campus network using certain applications. So it looks like they got a hack from an application, and it popped something on their screen saying, click on here, and that's how they got in. And they got a ransomware attack. Now, ECC had a very solid disaster recovery plan, and were able to recover from it without having to pay the ransom. But they are now restricting physical campus access to SUNY Erie ECC in general, IT staff and maintenance workers only until further notice. So they're going around scanning every machine and cleaning everything up. They're still working to restore services, and federal and local authorities, because this is a government agency, if you will, a state agency, will be looking into this and finding out what happened. But basically what happened, they got phished and they got a pop-up on their screens. Certain security measures weren't taken, and some cleanup will have to happen after the fact. And this type of attack is basically a phishing attack that points you, it's not an email phishing, but it's a phishing attack that points you to click on a link. It fishes you and give you enough information so that a handful of people clicked on links, and those links downloaded the malware onto their machines and it started infecting the network. So that's what happened at ECC, and that's not too long ago. Next, I want to talk about Uber. Now, Uber is a really big company, but and this happened actually in 2016, and the hack happened in 2014. But the reason why I wanted to mention this is there's a criminal complaint that raises the stakes for breach response, because Uber's CIO tried to hide what happened. He said, "Oh no, we didn't get hacked." So what happened is on August 20th of 2020, a criminal complaint was filed charging Joseph Sullivan, that's the CIO, the former chief security officer, with obstruction of justice and a felony in connection with an alleged attempt to cover up the 2016 data breach. Now this is very serious. Now he's going to have a felony on his record. He may go to jail, and all he tried to do is hide from what happened. These are serious charges, obviously, and Mr. Sullivan has the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. But what they're saying is, at the time of the 2016 data breach, Uber was being investigated by the FTC in connection with a prior data breach that occurred in 2014. So according to the complaint, the hackers behind the 2016 breach stole a database containing the personal information of about 57 million Uber users. Now, they hold a lot of information, including email address, name, phone number, where you live, credit card information. I mean, there's a lot of info that Uber holds, and they had a hack, and the hackers took 57 million records away from them. Then the hackers contacted Uber to inform the company that the attack and demanded payment in return for their silence. See what happened here? They stole their stuff and said, "Hey, if you don't pay us, we're going to let everybody know what happened." Obviously, Mr. Sullivan did not want that to happen, and according to the complaint, Uber's response was to attempt to recast the breach as a legitimate event under Uber's bug bounty program and pay a bounty. Then an affidavit got submitted with the complaint portraying a detailed story of deliberate steps taken by Mr. Sullivan to conceal the 2016 breach. I guess what I'm trying to say here, hacks will happen. You may get scammed and you may get hacked whether you want to or not, and whatever you've taken the steps or not. But most importantly, the FTC does not like that. And this is what they wrote: "We expect good corporate citizenship. We expect prompt reporting of criminal conduct. We expect cooperation with our investigations. We will not tolerate corporate cover-ups. We will not tolerate illegal hush or money payments." I guess all I'm trying to say here, if it happened to you and you have to report it, please report it and make sure that you are abiding by it. You don't want to go to jail over something like this. And most importantly, let's make sure that you're protected so you don't have to worry about it. So concealing information, obviously, about a family from law enforcement is a crime. And now this is a new case, and let's see what happened to him, and I hope everything works out. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to make people aware that this happens. And Uber is a bigger company, but it still happens on a local scale. And a much smaller hack, the next hack I'm going to talk about, is the DC Bar Association. This was an unsecured database. So basically, a database got hacked. Somebody either knew about their username and password, or the server was exposed. So an unsecured Elasticsearch server, which appears to be at fault for a data breach involving the personnel data of new lawyers applying to test before the bar at the District of Columbia Bar Association. This is the DC Bar Association. So a whistleblower complaint was first submitted to this association in August of this year, but resolution was slow. The applicant's data may have leaked for some time before it was fixed. The DC Bar claimed that only one record was exposed, but researchers and applicants who discovered the breach dispute that claim, and now they're under investigation. It's a regulatory body. They need to be secure. They didn't do everything they needed to do, and it's a unsecured database exploit. That's how the hackers got in. Documents uploaded by applicants that may have been exposed, including documents containing personal information, their name, their phone number, their email address, social security number, and the full employment history, all have been hacked and taken away from DC Bar Association because of an unsecured database. That means the username and password for that specific user had more rights than they needed to, the person that got hacked. And the database itself had the default password set up in it. I don't know how the DC Bar Association wouldn't have found out. Their IT provider should have been able to look at all this, but it's important to have somebody responsible and making sure that you look at how you're protected, not only from a tools perspective, but from a username and password perspective. Does every user have their right credentials? Can they see only the files they need to see, but not everybody else's files? So user A is not a super user and can't see all the HR documents, for instance. Most importantly, in a database, they can see different tables and different information and reporting that they're not allowed to see. So having that type of level of security and making sure that everybody's password is secured and changes all the time would have fixed that issue for the DC Bar Association. I thought that was unique because it's an unsecured database that was the issue. I'll take you to the next one. The next one is a Oakland medical group, and this was a phishing attack. It's a medical care provider. And what happened here is multiple successful phishing attack at the Michigan's Oakland hospital netted a wealth of information for cyber criminals. After gaining access to several employees' email accounts, so they got access to email accounts, and they do that from a variety of different ways. You know, you could be on the dark web and you reuse the same password, or they may have called and say, hey, your IT provider, and told them, I forgot your password. If the IT provider does not have policies and procedure to make sure that it's you that's calling, they may get it that way. You may have shared it with somebody else. It may have been in an email. There's a lot of different ways they get that information, but this was a phishing attack. So a phishing attack is when they send you something and they fish you, they make you, grab that bait or click on that link. And that's how it happened. So the attack is believed to have occurred in April of 2020, but was just disclosed in a filing now. So not only does a data breach leave a huge mess of expenses and expensive cleanup behind it, in many industries like healthcare, a data breach can also mean your organization will be paying big regulatory penalties and fines too, because if you weren't able to secure it, then you will be fined, especially if you're in healthcare. So be aware of that. You should have every possible tool you can have, especially in healthcare, to make sure that you're HIPAA compliant and you're doing everything possible to secure the data that you own. And that's what the government will be, an FTC will be looking for when they're if they ever audit you. What have you done and what haven't you done? And were you negligent on purpose or not? And every level makes you pay a bigger fine. Next, I decided to show you guys a ransomware attack. So you know what ransomware is. You clicked on something, something happened, and it held your files. It encrypts all your files and held it as a ransom. Well, the city of Baltimore blew a $76,000 ransomware demand only to find out that they didn't have a good backup. And that struck me. The city government, you'd think they have solid backup and a lot of IT people running all over the place. I've seen it happen, and I've seen, we do some business with some municipalities, and I've seen the type of work that they do, and some spend money and some don't, like any other company or business or municipality. But the city of Baltimore is a big city, and they got ransomware. They got hit with ransomware in May of this year, and criminals using remodeled and rebranded an NSA exploit called Eternal Blue. It knocked out a majority of the city's servers and crippled many of its applications. So more details didn't surface until September, when the city's government began reshuffling some budget to cover the expenses of recovering from that attack. So think about that. We only found out about it because money had to be pulled from other different services and had to be spent on this attack to clean it up. But they did not pay the ransom. So according to the city, it permanently missing data resulted in a loss of confidence in their city IT department's ability to do their job. It looks like the list of stuff was being paid to do, that the IT company was being paid to do, was never really done. There was no checks and balances for them. And then hence a catastrophic outcome, and the city refused to pay the $76,000 ransom, and it cost them so far close to $6 million in repair. $76,000 would have been a lot cheaper, but there was stuff that needed to be repaired anyways, whether they paid it or not, but at least they would have gotten all their data back. Not only did they not pay the ransom and paid a lot more to secure the network better than it was, and now no ransom, secured network, spent a lot of money, but you didn't have a solid backup. Backup is key. If you have backup, it doesn't matter what the hack is, we can always restore back to a valid, solid, working backup that we know is tested and it works. That's why I wanted to share that. How secure is your backup really? Are you sure it's working for you? When is the last time you restored something from your backup? Have you asked yourself those questions? I'm going to show you different ways to do certain things in the slides to come. I have two more examples though that I want to share with you guys. And this one I can't tell you who, because this is something and somebody that we cleaned up, and I can't tell you exactly who because, well, obviously we have a non-disclosure with them, and I wouldn't tell everybody that because we got them to a place where they don't have to go report. But this is a locally owned, and it's known a successful business with multiple locations and over 150 employees. So this is not a small company, and we came in after the fact. We came in to clean up their, the ransomware mess that they had. They had a ransomware attack. They had a backup, or at least they thought, but they never tested it. And the backup was being run on the same machine connected to the network. So when they got ransomware, it also infected the backup. So really didn't have anything at all. We were lucky enough to find a 4-month-old backup to be able to restore them. We did not have to pay in this case, we had to pay the ransom because it was 4-month-old and we needed the data in the middle. So we had to pay the ransom. We negotiated with the hackers. I remember 82 emails going back and forth. And they ended up actually having 2 ransomware attacks at the same time on 2 different servers, and had to pay 2 ransoms. They weren't that small. It was close to 15 grand altogether that they had to pay, plus our time and what have you. So it ended up costing them more money. But so we negotiated on their behalf and got ransomware. They got ransomware twice in the same month on 2 different servers. But now we started putting all the security tools and what have you in place so that we could find out before it becomes an issue. And most importantly, we made sure that their backup was tested and running and being managed, because that's where we can restore from and never have to pay a ransom, or we don't negotiate with terrorists, if you will. And that's how I view them. I view cyber criminal as terrorists holding you hostage to take your money. Another local company, again, it's a local company that if I told you the name, you'd know it. But this was a different hack that we've seen in the past. This was it's a fake hack attack. So this company have about 50 employees, not a lot of computers, but that main computer that they use act as their server was also being used as a workstation. I don't ever recommend to do that. Don't do that. They called us because for the last 4 years, they've been paying $1,500 a year because they keep getting a virus. And once we looked into it, they actually never had a virus. First of all, they didn't have a backup, but they didn't get ransomware. They had a malware that popped up on the screen and said, hey, you have a virus, but there was no virus. The malware was telling you have a virus. And then they got a call saying, hey, I see that we're with the malware company, and I see that you have an issue, and we could help you resolve this issue for $1,500. And they paid it. And they paid it. It happened every year because now they were a target. And they left that software on their machine, and it popped up every year, and they called us after the 4th year, spending $1,500 a year just to have the hacker remove the exploit that they put on their machine, and tell us, I just don't understand why they can't get it cleaned up. We use this company and they fix it, and then a year later it comes back. And after we looked into it, the company they're using were the hackers. They were paying the hackers directly, thinking they hired an IT company. I can't make this up, I promise you. It did happen. And I just wanted you to be aware that hackers use all kinds of techniques. It's not just a hack where they don't call you. It's not just you clicked on something or you got a virus or you got ransomware. It could be a lot of different things. They'll call you and try to get you to do things if they can see that they can take control over your data, because people's data is the most important thing for them, so they will pay for it. I'll mention 2 hacks that you may already know about that happened in the past. This did not happen due to COVID, but the Dent Neurological Institute had it wasn't really a hack, but an email issue where 200 people got sent an attachment that included 10,200 patient records. But because the organization has exposed that data without technical safeguards, it had to alert each of those patients to explain the data breach. The attachment containing information such as name, address, or whether they were an active or former patients, their last appointment, their visit type, their primary care physician, their referring physician, and their email address. They had to be all called, and all 200 recipients were called and asked to delete that file. And then they now, I still talk about them, and everybody still talks about them in our area because Dent is a big name, but they had to go public with it. And that was the issue for them, because patient records were taken, and they've done the right thing. I can say that they've done what they were supposed to do, and now they added an additional tool that will scan every email coming out, and if there is any PHI in it, it will stop it by itself. Back then, when this hack happened, the technology wasn't there, and you have to click secure or type secure in the subject line for you to send it. This technology is still available. You still can write secure in the subject line, but there's new technology where it will read every email coming out, and if it finds HIPAA laws that were broken, it will encrypt those messages automatically. So that's a learning lesson for Dent. And ECMC, you know, how ECMC got hacked by cyber criminals and how it's recovering. You know, ECMC, it was 2 a.m. Palm Sunday, where computer screen across ECMC all together flashed white and bright red words. What happened to your files? So it was a ransomware demand. Step 1, and the demand was to send them 1.7 Bitcoin for each affected PC, or 24 Bitcoins to receive all private keys altogether. That was about $44,000 to provide them with the keys to unlock them all. Hindsight is 2020. They probably should have paid the ransom. However, ECMC had a solid backup, and at 3:30 a.m., the medical center, while still assessing the damage and risk to private patient information, had shut down all computer system as a precaution. So nobody can use computers, and they made every doctor and every provider that offers services in ECMC go and use paper. But this case was different because officials believe hackers used an automatic program that antivirus software could not recognize to exploit a hospital web server accessible remotely that should have been configured differently to prevent this from occurring. The hackers then applied a brute force computing type attack, trying millions of characters combination to identify a relatively easy default password to gain entrance into the hospital system. And once they got entrance into the system, they took control and encrypted all the files. So what's happening is a form of terrorism, like an attack on critical infrastructure, like an attack on Niagara Falls or the water department. You're attacking a network. It's terrorism for me. That's how I see it. And many business quietly pay ransoms that you're not aware of, and they try to hide from it. But there's things that could be done that will protect you. So I just wanted to cover that with you, just to explain some of the hacks that we've been seeing and some hacks that happened in the past. So how can you can your organization safeguard your employees? How can you protect yourself? How can you make sure that you are not the low-hanging fruit? Uh, so number one, backup and disaster recovery and business continuity. I've said it before, and when I showed you guys the examples, make sure that you have a solid backup. So backup is one thing. Backup is a backup of all your files, or it could even be an image backup of all your servers and applications and everything that comes along with it. That's solid, but backup by itself usually backs up at night and then for the day before. So even if you did get a hack and you had a backup from the night before, you may be at risk of losing the entire day, that entire day's worth of work. And certain companies, that's a lot of work that have to be recreated. So number one, make sure you understand how your backup solution works. You got to understand where your data is being backed up, how far it is from your main system. Is it in the same building? Is it in a different building? Is it across the world? Is it in a cloud provider? Where is the cloud provider? How fast can you restore files? Have you tried to restore files? How often? Do you test it regularly? And backup is a bare minimum here. So having backup is great and it will protect you, but it's the bare minimum thing you should have. Implement and document a business continuity plan, and a disaster recovery plan is key. Because with a solid disaster recovery and business continuity appliance, your backup is no longer 24-hour difference. Your backup can be as short as every 5 minutes a backup can happen, and only changes will go to the backup. And if we only lose 5 minutes at any one time, that backup appliance can actually act as a server, and you can boot up the hack server or the down server onto that appliance, bringing you back up right away. So a business continuity plan is a business-centric process which ensures businesses are able to continue operating in the event of a disaster or if a workplace becomes inaccessible, like COVID. But disaster recovery plan that serves as a broader protection for your organization. An effective disaster recovery plan will allow your important data to be restored quickly in the event of systems are destroyed during a disaster or during a hack or whatever it may be. So a business continuity plan should lay out the critical aspects of a business operation and the steps required to protect them in the event of a disaster. Now you can call to your PSMs and we can discuss disaster recovery, business continuity, and backup with you. The following, so some assets that you might be among some stuff that you wanted to be included in business continuity is your servers, obviously, your computers, but also your phones and network connections and your network drives, your online systems. How are you going to reach it from wherever you're going to go? Any business related applications. Not all disasters are dire, but a business continuity plan will also identify how to protect your organization from less obvious disruptive events. It doesn't have to be a big hack that took you completely down. It could be one down server. And what are you going to do about that? So number one advice I give you, let's make sure you understand your backup, your disaster recovery, and your business continuity plan. If you don't have it, call us. We'll be able to help you get there. Then I wanted to talk about security, because most people have what I call basic security. When I ask people, so tell me about your security. Well, we have this great firewall. We spent some money on it, and then we have antivirus on every machine. And when I connect remotely, I log in through a VPN, a virtual private network. I'm secured. And yeah, you have basic security. I agree with that. But you don't have really strong security. And we call it MVP Total Secure because we put together a series of different solutions that we think above and beyond basic security you should have. So some of the examples and some of the tools we think you should use is mobile device management. And mobile device management are for mobile devices like your cell phone or iPad or what have you that you travel with and have data on it that is company based and you don't want it to be hacked in any way. Mobile device management will be able to encrypt that data and make you secure. So just in case you lose that device or somebody steals it from you or what have you, we're able to selective wipe or auto wipe or find or do quite a bit of different things on that device remotely. Another thing is a SIM. I highly recommend installing a SIM across the board, especially on your servers. What a SIM is, it stands for Security Incident and Event Management. Anything that you do on your servers or your machines create a log files. So a general network may generate millions of log files a day. And if there's an issue, we have to go through the log files to find them. But with a SIM, we can find them so much quicker. Because let's say you got ransomware, a SIM will let us know that files are being encrypted, and then we should look into that issue before all files are encrypted, so we can stop it before it becomes a bigger issue. Another tool is user behavior analysis. So you know what your users are doing and what they're clicking on and what have you. Vulnerability scanning, which is a scan of every single machine and device that you have on a network that will tell us what patches are missing, what vulnerabilities on these machines. Are you doing some of that stuff? And if we're doing your IT, depending on the package you have, we are running some vulnerability scanning for you. But if you're not sure, call your PSM and let's make sure that you are, because vulnerability scanning looks at every single device individually and lets us know what needs to be patched and what's wrong with it and how it can be hacked. Next tool is multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication is like when you go to your bank account and they send you a code on your mobile device, whether being via text or email or Aussie or Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. It's those 6-digit codes that you enter to make sure that you log in. That changes every 20 seconds. If you're going to work remotely, VPN is great, but the password for your VPN, if it's done right, could change every 90 days. However, multi-factor adds that every 20-second change will make sure that even if somebody has your password, they cannot gain access. Password management. I don't like to store my password in the browsers because if somebody gains access to my machine, every password in that browser is exposed. But I use a password tool. I use LastPass. It's a free application. You can download it. They do have a paid version with more features, but the free works just as well. Password management is an encrypted now. When I use LastPass, even though I can use it through the browser, and it feels like I'm using the password that's built into the browser, but I know that I have it in a container that is encrypted. And that's how I recommend using password management in general. The paid version is if you want to manage multitude of different people's passwords and what have you. Full disk encryption is basically an encryption on your whole hard drive. And that way, we highly recommend it. It gives you a decryption key. When we first boot up your machine, a blue screen comes up and you have to put in a password before your Windows password. And that password allows you to for Windows to load. But let's say you lost that machine and you have full disk encryption on it. You don't have to worry about any data you have on that machine because it's encrypted. They have to know that password to be able to, and a decryption key to be able to get into your machine above and beyond Windows password. So even if they remove your hard drive outside the machine, plug it into another hard drive and try to read your data, just your data, the data will become encrypted and it won't make any sense and they won't be able to read it. And then last but not least, what's a big one for me is advanced threat protection. Advanced threat protection is the new wave of antivirus. You know, it's more than just antivirus. It's advanced threat protection. So antivirus, if you guys know, works through definitions. At night, it updates its definitions. The update comes down, and what happens is that if you get that virus that's on that list, it knows to stop you, to stop that virus. But hackers are becoming smarter. Viruses are becoming smarter, and we needed a smarter tool. So here comes advanced threat protection. It does not work through definitions only. It also works through attributes. So it looks on the attribute of what a virus would do or what an application would do on your machine. If it's repetitive, it will notice that that could be an attribute of a virus and it will stop it that way. So then even if a hacker changed the name, changed it a little bit, because there's always a lot of different variation of the same virus, advanced threat protection will stop it. So And you could load advanced threat protection with the traditional antivirus to make sure that you have both sides covered. And that's what I mean by a lot more tools, more things to load onto your network to make you a lot more secure. This is how we close the doors and close the windows to your house and to your company so that cyber criminals can't come in. So here are some cybersecurity tools to use regularly. Number one, I recommend perform a risk assessment to know where your vulnerabilities, where your risks are. Run a vulnerability test to know what your vulnerabilities are. Even do a penetration test if you want to know if you can be hacked from the outside, penetrated from the outside in. Vulnerability is on your devices internally. And more than just antivirus, implement advanced threat protection. Use a SIM for log analysis and management. And also look at your email address on the dark web. We're actually offering this on our website for free. You can jump to our website on mvpworks.com/dark web scans. And when you're there, all you have to do is put in your email address, click search, and it will let you know if that email address was found in any hack out there and what kind of information they have on you. Again, that's mvpworks.com/dark web scans. And then I also recommend getting cyber insurance. You should, because if something does happen, let's make sure that you're insured. So the idea here is to predict, prevent, detect, and respond. And if you do all of these, that's what you're doing. You're predicting it by doing analysis and looking at what's happening and running a risk assessment. You're preventing it by using the right tools. You're detecting it, and then obviously you're responding to if there's an issue. But all of these are great, and they will do the job and make it a lot harder for hackers to take advantage of you. But what they won't do is they won't stop hacks from happening if your employees are clicking willy-nilly on whatever they want to click on, and there isn't any training happening. Employees and humans are the leading cause of all data breaches. 49% of polled US working adults correctly identified what phishing is. So they know what phishing is. And phishing is the #1 cause of all breaches. It's not ransomware. Phishing attacks is the #1 cause. Phishing attack can cause a ransomware because you may have clicked on a ransom. 90% of working adults use employer-issued device for personal activities, even if you tell them not to, because a lot of devices are not hardened and you can use them and browse whatever you want to browse. And 50% of that 90% admitted of letting their friends and family, kids, use the same device that they use for work. And 45% of working adults admit to refusing or reusing passwords, with putting different exclamation points at the end of it, reusing it in different websites and different applications. You know, don't make it easy on the hackers. I like passphrases, not passwords. And if the password or the passphrase is more than 16 characters long, it makes it a lot more difficult for the hackers to figure it out. So you don't have to have, I mean, it's nice to have, but you don't have to have explanation points and numbers and what have you. That may be what they're forcing you to do, but it could be as simple as, I love to go to the beach on a sunny day. That's more than 16 characters, and your password will be a lot more secured. You can go to howsecuredismypassword.net and you can see how secured your password is. Check it out. It's a very cool tool. So let's talk about what we could do. Now, we know that humans are the leading cause of all data breaches. So here's 5 simple steps to safeguard employees. Number 1, let's give them training, cybersecurity basics. Employee lack basic cybersecurity awareness that puts them at risk and puts you at risk. Let's train them on how to identify phishing attacks. Let's have some security policies written so that they know exactly what to do if something did happen, if they noticed it. They're not just wondering what to do. And have continuous reinforcement, because the more you do it, it becomes a habit, right? If you do it 28 times in a row, you become a habit. Well, 48% of cyber criminals spend 1 to 5 hours per week keeping up with security trends, and the employees need to do the same. And I'm not saying spend 1 to 5 hours a week training them, but after the initial training, make sure that they have regular training scheduled so that they are able to combat the attacks coming their way. And then have visual results, maintain management buy-in through visual reporting, which employees is the biggest risk, which employees didn't take a lot of their training, which employees are on the dark web with their email quite a bit. And there's ways to find all that information out and have it reported on. So we're going to talk about truly training your employees. And we have a portal that we use called BPP, Breach Prevention Platform. And that BPP portal is a training portal for employees. And it does exactly what I just outlined. And what it also does is phishing simulation. So basically, it will send fake emails to all your employees so that we could see which employee clicked on what. So on average, it takes 4 phishing simulations to stop a repeat offender. In other words, if they clicked on it once, they may click on it again and again. After 4 times, and you're letting them know, hey, you're clicking on it, I'm sending you fake emails and you're still clicking on it, they start to be aware of what's happening. You can get them there. Make them an educated consumer, make them a stronger consumer, and that way they don't cause risks for you. Do a little time check here. We got 15 minutes, so we're almost, we still got a few slides to go through, so I'm going to try to get to them as fast as possible. And please be aware that employees need to be taught how to properly respond and report potential phishing attack. If they received an email that they know is a phishing attack, they should let people know, hey, other emails be coming to other people in the company. There's a big one called the CEO hack. It's a phishing attack, and basically the CEO's email address. And it's usually very similar with their name on it. And you look at the email at a quick glance, it looks like their email address, but if you paid attention, they may have added an S into that domain name. They may have removed an S. It looks the same, but not exactly. And usually the CEO says, I need you to wire me money into this account right away. This is an emergency. And you'd be surprised how many people fall for that. Or go buy some Google cards and send me the numbers, or go buy some Amazon cards, or whatever it may be. They are just trying to take your money. Positive reinforcement and make it more like a game, gamification, I called it, increase employees' engagement and retention by up to 84%. So that's important to know. Our tool does that. So security policies and procedure and what works. You want to have them. So you want to have predefined policies and procedures for every single different type of attack that may happen. You want it to be updated regularly. Not only technology and their associated vulnerabilities are constantly changing, so make sure you are reviewing and updating your policies and procedures. And you want to require acknowledgement by all your employees that they've read them, that they understand them, then they sign that they've read them, understand them. So having policies and procedures in place is a great first step, but it's not enough. Businesses need documentation of employees' acknowledgement each time they're updated. Every time you make a change to it, because security risks will change and your policies will change. So have them updated and have them up to snuff is where you want to do. And then you want them to also to meet compliance standards, because if you're under HIPAA compliancy or PCI or whatever it may be, there are certain standards that you have to have in your policies and procedures. Our BPP tool actually has most policies and procedures you're going to need, and all for HIPAA, but most policies and procedures you're going to need that is in a template format that you could take and make your own. So that tool is very strong, and that's why we're pushing this for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. If we train the employees not to click and to be aware of what's happening, making them an educated consumer is going to really help in minimizing any risk that you may be exposed to. So reinforce training continuously. I said that before, but keep security top of mind. That's the idea of the training. It's the trends. User will get updated regularly. So that portal that they log into will have updated videos. Every video is below 2 minutes long, and you get one quick question or 2 questions per video. And it's a training. The question is only to make sure they paid attention. It's only 2 minutes, so it's quick, and it stays up with the trends. There's a new trend, a new issue, there's a new video created to let you know about it. The topics are highlight topics that criminals are leveraging, like the COVID-19 pandemic. And then tactics bring to light new ways criminals will try to trick users, like on social media. there's quite a bit there. And so be aware of what you're clicking on Facebook or what have you. Not every cute puppy or cute cat will get you to see a fantastic video. It could be just a hack, and Facebook is hacked across the board. So if you do all that, then you got to measure it and do a visual progress. So each employee's journey to security awareness is unique and impacted a multitude of factors. So identify the risk of employee in a visual manner helps management see their ROI for the program progress, and which employee could be their greatest risk inside. So it gives you a training score, how many trainings you've done, the phishing results, if you clicked on a fake phishing email or not. It will do a dark web password data analysis for you and let you know if your employees on the dark web. And there's a place for the employees to go acknowledge all the policies and procedure will also be in there. And then employees and company trends across the board will show you where you stand. The portal really looks like this. This is what it looks like. You'll see if you're a manager, you see all your employees on one side, their risk score. Obviously, if they're high risk, is because their ESS score, and ESS is Employee Secure Score. That's what ESS stands for. It's kind of like your credit score, but for your cybersecurity knowledge. You want to be a low risk score. That means you've taken a lot of trainings, you did not fall for any phishing emails, and you've taken a lot of micro videos and quizzes. And these are quizzes and trainings that stay up to par to what's happening nowadays in cybersecurity and what's happening in the hacks and what type of hacks the hackers are using. So tools that provide easy to understand visual and metrics help customers, and your customers meaning your employees, to see your risk, track program improvements, and identify high-risk employees so you can have one-on-ones with them and see why they're not paying attention. And they could be employees that you're aware of. And then you could see a progression. Overall, my risk score is, my ESS is becoming higher. That means my risk is becoming lower of getting a virus or a hack or a ransomware. That doesn't mean you're not going to get them. It's going to mean that your risk of getting them is a lot lower. But if you have all the tools as well that we've discussed and you do get it, even if you've done everything possible, at least the tools will catch it, will minimize your expenditures. And if you are going to ever get audited, having all this in place shows the auditor, because we audit ourselves, our clients, it shows the auditor what you're doing, that you're not negligent, that you are reporting, and that you're doing everything possible. But hacks do happen, and it is what it is. But then your fine is a lot less, and where you stand is a lot better. I hope this was helpful, everything that I showed you. But because of this webinar, BPP actually and us, they approved this. So this is coming from, this is for any new partners that signs up for them for 1 year with them, and you get 3 months for free, which is a huge deal. Please talk to your PSMs about it. It's a small fee per user per month, and then you log in and you're able to get the portal. Your PSM will be able to show you this, show you the portal, discuss it with you, and let you know what you need. I hope this was helpful. I figure it's not as technical as it could be, but this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We wanted to talk about cybersecurity, some of the hacks happening out there, and most importantly, some of the of what you can do to protect yourself. And if you train your employees, you'll be that farther ahead. You'll be that much better. So I just want to thank you for your time today, for listening to me babble on, and hopefully providing you some good feedback and some nuggets that you may enjoy, that you've enjoyed. And if you have any concerns or any questions, if you're not a client, call us. We can help start a process with you. We can start some of the scans and let you know where you stand overall. But if you are a client, take advantage of the 3 free months. It's a big one. You're going to enjoy it. If you don't like it after a year, you could cancel it anytime. So I'll open it up now. I'll unmute everybody, and I'll open up for questions and see if anybody has any questions or would like to. We got 5 minutes left, so oh, here's the questions coming in. I'm a total protection client. Do I get some of these tools already? It's a good question. If you're a total protection client, depending on the level that you are you a silver or are you gold? Some gold gets vulnerability scanning and some of the tools and advanced and some of and encryption. Some of the tools that we discussed, silver gets them a la carte and not as often. Bronze doesn't get all those tools. Depends on where you are. Please check with your PSM and we'll let you know what you have and what you don't have and what we recommend for you. We want to make sure you get what you need, not everything under the sun. I have another question that just came in. What do you think is the most important to have first? That's a very good question. Backup. I think you should make sure your backup and disaster recovery and business continuity is solid. You should have that first. But then from a different tools perspective, after backup and business continuity, training for your employees is solid and you should have that. But as tools, you should have encryption. To me, any device that leaves your environment should be encrypted, period. If you have data on your mobile devices, you should have mobile device management only on those devices. So you may think, I got 50 employees, I can't do that for every employee. No, but if your employees, if you only have 10 of them that have laptops and travel, encrypt only those. And that way you secure those. And that's how, if you call your PSM, we'll be able to talk to you and we'll be able to ask you the right questions to define and design a security program that will fit what your specific needs are. So that way you can make sure that you can sleep better at night. Make sure that no matter what happened, you're secured. One more question came in. Is security different for each industry? That's another good question. Thanks for asking that. Yes, it is. From a regulatory perspective anyways. Some banks obviously have a lot more security than you would regularly. Do you need it all? No, you don't. You could still be high up on the tree. I like more security than less, but I like the basic, not only the basic security, I like more than that. I always recommend advanced threat protection, encryption, mobile device management, and multi-factor authentication. Have those four at a bare minimum besides your antivirus and your VPN to connect back and your firewall. You have to have that anyways, but have those four different things. And yes, it's different per industry and it's different for the compliance that you go underneath, but they're all very similar on what it is. It depends on how deep in the security you want to be. So I hope this answered your question. Let me see if I have any other questions. Oh. Oh, one more question just came in. Oh no, it's the same. Is security different for each for different compliance? Same thing, industry compliance. Same questions. I hope that answered your question. If you guys have any other ones, let me know. Everybody's unmuted now, so I hope you guys, if you don't see yourself unmuted, if the system didn't unmute you, please feel free to unmute yourself. If you want to have any questions or any feedback, let us know. We're wrapping up now. I just want to thank you for your time, for always taking the time to come in and listen to me talk about technology. This is Cyber Awareness Security, Cyber Security Awareness Month. Please make it top of mind. Tell your employees about it. Think about BPP and what that could do for you from a training perspective. And if you want to take a look at it, talk to your PSM. We'll be more than glad to do a demo for you and take advantage of those 3 free months. It's a huge deal and will save you quite a bit of money. And I think it's something very important to have because 95% of all issues happens because somebody clicked on something. If you're not training them, you can't blame them. But if you train them, then it's a different story. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you very much for joining me and have a wonderful day. Here in Buffalo, it's nice and crisp. I love this type of weather enjoy it, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.